Khabib and Jose Aldo, they got something going on right now. Oil and water. And these two aren't getting it right. And I would love to know the genesis of this. And I even looked into it. I'm just not fully satisfied that through my research, I found it. And here's what it is. Look, Khabib weighed in on Jose Aldo. Khabib shot first. And he was talking about Jose's done. He'll never be champion again. And this is post Aldo's victory over Pedro Munoz. I remember thinking, this is weird. This isn't very Khabib-esque. Khabib to pull somebody down, let alone a fellow champion, let alone when Khabib is removed from the sport, because the rules change. If you're in the sport, if you're willing to make that walk, say whatever you want. Once you leave the sport, the rules change. You now have one role. One role. If you are, stay the hell out of the way or help to build the guys who are still there. That's it. Khabib took some shots here at Aldo, and I just wonder where that came from. So I look into it a little bit. It turns out somewhere along the way, remember Khabib versus Tony, and that was lit on fire 5 times? One of those times, Aldo was still a 45-pounder. Aldo offered to step in and fight Khabib. Aldo offered to fill in for Tony Ferg and fight Khabib. Now, I've never heard that, and it's not that I've forgotten it. I would not forget that. And I do remember when ultimately it was Ali Aquina. For a minute there, it was Max Holloway. Like, I remember when this whole thing was happening. And I don't know if that's the same fight because we do have a total of 5. And of course, I'm talking about Khabib and Ferguson, 5 times up, 5 times down, didn't work out. Somewhere Jose stepped in, and somewhere Khabib doesn't like that and hasn't forgotten. And by the way, that's an interesting match for one reason for me. As much as Khabib is so dominant with his wrestling, his MMA wrestling, Jose Aldo is just as dominant, but with his defense. Jose Aldo is the defensive George St. Pierre of MMA wrestling. George can take everyone, and Aldo can stop everyone. I'm interested in that match. And while Khabib probably pushes him and Big Brothers him and brings him down, that one component of that match, I personally would be interested in. Okay, hold the thought, because we're not getting there. I can't remember a champion who's ever been as vocal as Khabib. It looks as though Khabib is searching for his place within the sport. I remember at one point Khabib was offering to train Luke Rockhold, even though Luke has trainers. And I know that Khabib, the trainer / kind of helping with management, kind of help with... Khabib's doing a great job. I'm just suggesting for you that he is still finding his place in what it is, and I don't think we have ever had a champion. Champions are a lot like former presidents. They go away. They're hard to get a hold of. Not a lot to talk about. Khabib is definitely the most vocal former champion we've had, and Jose Aldo responded to Khabib. He said, look, you say I have no path back, but I'm out here trying. And yes, defeats are part of my process, and defeats would have been part of your process had you stuck around long enough. And I will just tell you this final thought on Jose Aldo. I also did not think there was a path back. That fight with Pedro Munoz changed everything. Jose Aldo went from one of these guys, hey man, what are you still doing here? This is weird. Why are you here? Jose would not have even been in a co-main spot. That whole card fell apart like the week before and Jose got elevated. I just mean not for nothing. Goes and puts on his single best performance, has a perfect call-out, that of TJ Dillashaw, did everything right, and all of a sudden it goes from watching Jose to saying, hey, there's no path, but you're living in denial like all fighters do at some point. This just happens to be your point. It went from that to, no, I could see where Jose could get back into a championship fight. Jan, Sterling, where's Dillashaw fit into this? Sandhagen going to have his say very soon. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios where they're going to play musical chairs with that belt. And there's a lot of scenarios where all of a sudden Jose getting sprung back into an opportunity is realistic. So I will just give you that. I think that Jose was playing a very thin line. Walking a very thin line of, is this weird? Is what you're doing at this age and this point of your career for the goals that you believe have, which are very unrealistic, is it weird? Or are you an inspiration? And Jose Aldo, with that win over Munoz, fell onto the side of inspiration. And now he's got people not only saying it's not weird, he's got a whole community, I'm part of it, that is polling for him to be given that opportunity. Let's see where it goes. Khabib, Jose Aldo, even in the media. It's an interesting fight.